Hello and a very warm welcome to you on this edition of Business Africa. I am Afolake Oyinloye. The top stories this week. African countries pay the price for the current global trade war. And a fishery business in Kenya where a farm is turning fish skin into useful product. We have shoe samples. Liberia's way announces cash injection as inflation spirals. US-China trade war is much more than a fight between two world powers. US imposed tariffs on imports from China, Europe and Canada as caused weakness across stock markets globally. But it also requires Africa to rethink its future economic growth path to mitigate the impact of unnecessary trade wars. Nigeria, Kenya and South Africa's stock markets were largely impacted by Trump's protectionist wave. South Africa is concerned that the US is considering a new wave of tariffs that could be extended to the auto industry, which is one of the cornerstones of the country's manufacturing. Micah DBA and Selsh Kofi with the details.
Rising trade tensions between the United States and the rest of the world could cost the global economy $430 billion, the International Monetary Fund warned. Some African countries are already paying the price for the war. South Africa's currency rand retreated more than 1% on July 11 as an escalation in the trade war between the United States and China hit global demand for emerging market currencies. However, an associate professor of economics from the Walmart University said the trade war between China and the U.S. will impact both sides.
It's likely that both countries will increase the tariff rates and maybe implement some other non-tariff trade barriers. And also probably from Beijing's point of view, they might actually tighten some regulatory measures on businesses.
Tariffs imposed on steel and aluminium by the U.S. has directly affected South African steel and aluminium industry. Major markets across Africa have also taken a tumble due to the Trump's protectionist wave on the stock market. Impact was largely felt in Nigeria, Kenya and South Africa. The reason is very simple. The Chinese trade with Africa has increased 10 times since the year 2000, and it has become the continent's leading trading partners. Amid a threat of a global trade war, the U.S. and its African counterparts are discussing the African Growth and Opportunity Act, a preferential trade program that enhances market access to the U.S. for about 40 sub-Saharan nations by eliminating import levies on more than 7,000 products, ranging from textile to manufactured items.
Ali Kensanshu, the Chief Executive of Rich Management, an investment advisory, is joining us for more on that report. Welcome to the program.
No, thank you for having me on your program.
Some African countries are already paying the price for the current trade war, from South Africa's rand retreating. Major markets across Africa have also tumbled due to Trump's protectionist wave. Africa, of course, is at the bottom end of the supply chain. What worse could happen?
So clearly, we've already seen a wobble in the market, as you correctly said. The rand, which is the most interconnected of our currencies to the globe, has taken a big hit. And we've seen stock markets come off the highs that we saw in late February. The question is, can this get worse? Yes, it can. And what happens if it gets worse? Well, the last big trade war we witnessed was in the 1930s, and global GDP fell by a half. So I think for now we're all quite complacent, but the possibility of a tail risk of a real big hit cannot be dismissed.
Would you say perhaps this is a wake-up call for African nations to start investing or targeting its local markets?
Absolutely. I think, the whole idea of the African free trade area is a silver bullet for the continent. No continent I know can develop without trading amongst itself. And I think this is what we've got to refocus on. I'm seeing a lot of focus from the AFCB, African Union, so I think that's a positive sign. And we're not going to get a quick result anytime soon. It's quite a long haul, and it will take a bit of time.
Will this war affect African Growth and Opportunity Act? The program has 7 years before it expires.
So we've already been affected, particularly because one of the main exports from Africa into the U.S. was oil, and the U.S. has grown its oil production now by a huge amount, and is essentially nearly self-sufficient. And what that has meant is that our commodities are no longer going in that direction. AGOA was meant to help. It did help to a considerable degree, but it hasn't helped the entire continent. It's helped those people who've embraced it. And I think the question for some of our governments is, how can they position better to take advantage of the AGOA architecture?
I can agree more. Lately, what countries have been most affected by this move?
So what we've seen... Okay. So, the countries that have been most affected are those which export commodities. The commodity markets in particular have been caught in the crossfire of the tariff war already. We've seen some very dramatic moves lower. I think the worst performing commodity is sugar, down about 22%. But copper has taken a very big hit. Last time I checked, copper was at 1-year lows. Oil was actually doing extremely well, but has come off the boil in the last week. So what we've seen is commodity-based economies, which were already taking a big hit after the 2014 oil price collapse, are the ones which are looking a bit wobbly. The question is, is it going to wobble more? And if it does, then it's a different economic scenario. For now, I think it's manageable. But, you see that in the rand, you see it in the Zambian kwacha, which has fallen. You see it in our stock markets, which have come off a lot since late February. And that's where the weaknesses have come. Eurobond yields have gone much higher. So basically, what was a very benign environment has changed quite dramatically for the worse.
Well, thank you very much for those insights. We're going on a break, and when we come back, we'll find out how fish leather is evoking a sense of fashion and pride in Kenya. Stay with us for more details.